I can
Actually
be
says,
long-winded, so I was like, hopefully I'm doing
that's
okay in
okay.
that.
That saves me a world of hurt
Okay.
when you want to speak. Keeps me from mumbling and jumbling through all my baloney. We're good. We're good though. We're a couple of professionals. So
We
we
sure
got
are.
Welcome everyone to the October 2025 edition of The Impact, a sustainable CT podcast for your edification, your enlightenment, and your entertainment too. I'm Jim Hunt, Communications Director at Sustainable CT. So if you're looking for someone to blame for this podcast, well, you can blame me. But remember, this is never a one-way conversation. We always want to hear from you for our edification and enlightenment. Drop us a note, won't you, to info@sustainablect.org. The Impact is brought to you in part by the Connecticut Green Bank. The Connecticut Green Bank confronts climate change by increasing and accelerating investment into Connecticut's green economy to create more resilient, healthier, and equitable communities, and we are oh so glad they do. Visit them at ctgreenbank.com. Remember, we can't do what we do without you. We don't have a magical rainbow unicorn money tree, no sir, but you can be a Sustainable CT sponsor. Find out how at sustainablect.org. We are very fortunate to have Michael Fling with us today. Michael is, among other notable things, the Associate Artistic Director at Goodspeed Musicals in beautiful East Haddam, Connecticut. I'm excited to talk to him for several reasons, not least of which is the fact that Sustainable CT will be having its 2025 awards celebration this month, October 28th, at the historic and folkloric Goodspeed Opera House. So this is our opportunity to get to know all about that fabulous location. And if you haven't been there before, trust me, it is fabulous, and you really should take the time to see a show at Goodspeed. Goodspeed Musicals began back in 1963 when they opened their doors as a professional musical theater. They produced over 250 musicals, including over 70 world premieres, and exported 21 productions to Broadway. And now they have us. Goodspeed is the first regional theater in America to earn two special Tony Awards, one in 1980 for outstanding contributions to the American musical, and a second in 1995 for distinguished achievement for regional theater. Michael Fling has extensive directing credits: Guys and Dolls, The Wiz, The Music Man, Holiday Inn, My Fair Lady, Hello Dolly, on, and Oklahoma, which is
Sure.
great. Which is great because he's actually from Oklahoma, as I understand it, where he says the wind does indeed come sweeping down the plain. I love that. That's great. Along with Anika Chapin, he's also the host of a truly entertaining podcast, not like ours, truly entertaining. Know the show. So please do check that out. It is fun and informative. Michael holds a degree in directing from the Conservatory of Theater Arts at Webster University. Go Gorliks. And I'm not
Gorloks,
even,
yeah.
I don't want
Wow.
to go. I don't even know what to say about that. It's the Gorliks. Michael, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it. We are going to have some fun, I hope, because we're really looking forward to going to the Goodspeed. It's a great place. So,
We're excited to have you all, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. I was like, I did do the whole like, oh, I've snuck in and started making sound before my intro was over. But
no, that's all right.
when you said Oklahoma, I was like, oh yeah, because I'm from Oklahoma. But then you got to it, so there you go.
Oh, Oklahoma. You can't help but sing this stuff. It is
No,
just, part of the
I've also
American
seen
way
that.
of being.
I have seen that show more than any other musical. Like when you're from Oklahoma, like there was a place that used to exist in like around where I grew up that they did Oklahoma every summer in an outdoor production
Yeah.
at Discoveryland. I saw it 1.5 million times. So I've seen Oklahoma and high schools and whatnot, and like it seems written in the stars that I'm from Oklahoma and have spent a life in musical theater. It
I
seems
don't know too many people from Oklahoma. That isn't true. You know what? It has nothing to do with you or us or this whole thing. My best friend was born in Oklahoma. I was born in
uh,
Oklahoma, but that's it. That's the only person I've ever met from Oklahoma, and they got out many years before they
Yeah.
you, you go back occasionally, do?
Oh yeah, I still have, I mean, my family, most of my family is still there. And like 95% of my family's there.
Yeah. Okay.
Or 90, well, actually that's not true. That's a really high percentage. It's not quite that high, but that's the gathering place where we all kind of gather. So, I go back there once or twice a year. I'm back in Oklahoma. I do love it there. Tulsa, I grew up in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Which is a great place to grow up in, very suburban and really more Midwestern than the
Yeah,
rest
you
of the
must get
state.
that a
So
lot. People, especially from we East Coasters, we're like, yeah, Oklahoma, okay, and you must get that. So you have to point out, no, it's suburban, it's normal.
I did not grow up like with and my family is very I would say atypical for most of Oklahoma. Like we didn't have a pickup truck, we
Okay.
didn't have a farm. Like there was, and I lived suburban, but like we didn't, I it was not like horses to school and rural. Like yeah, it
Now
was
you're
very.
shattering my.
I live rural now, like now in Connecticut, and
There you go.
I live in Chester, and I work in
Yeah,
East Haddam, so that's much more in some ways for the
yeah.
all the accusations of Oklahoma being spread out. I'm like Connecticut's way more spread out than my life in Oklahoma, but but I love New England, so I'm not. It's great.
Well, and I was reading up on you because I do that for this. This is kind of the big gig. And you got a fascinating career. How did you first get into theater? I mean, you went to school for it, but you must have had like the bug early on or something, right? Before you left
Yeah,
the
I mean,
business.
so it's funny. I was just catching up with friends that I've known since preschool. Like for 30 years, we just spent a weekend in the city together, which was a lot of fun. Highly recommend having friends that you can still be friends with 30 years later,
Yeah,
who like know your family and know you when you were like the very Disney obsessed, musical theater obsessed, young,
sure.
like from a very, very young age. I always loved performing, telling stories. I was always the one that was like, it's Thanksgiving, let's gather the cousins and put on a show. That was always, I always wanted to play pretend. I was always doing that.
And theater
Um,
people always say that. Oh, I knew it when I was 6. I was had this
and
thing.
yeah, we were talking about it. I was like, I never like one of my friends was like, oh well, I wasn't sure, or I knew kind of what I wanted to do, but my parents didn't want me to do that, so they made me take this like course, this like career placement course thing, and I was like, I thankfully never had to do that. Like I always knew I wanted to be I thought I wanted to do movies actually. I thought I would do theater for a while. I thought I'd perform in theater for a while, then I'd go to college for filmmaking and then go out to Hollywood. And then it was a high school theater teacher that looked at me my freshman year of high school and I was like, Michael, you don't want to do movies.
Yeah,
You want to do theater. You just don't like you can have a career in theater. And I was like, oh. And that was when it
and
really clicked
really?
because all
Okay.
at that point, all I knew was community theater. We didn't have a professional theater in Tulsa. So it wasn't a way to like make a living. And then I learned about regional theater and more about Broadway and all that stuff, even though I knew a bunch already. But I really got so I was always into it. And then, but really the true first thing was my grandma came home from a local community choir concert in December of I guess it was 2000. And said Memorial High School is doing the Music Man, and you have to go because they had
Yeah.
said at this thing, Memorial High School is doing the Music Man. They're looking for local kids, and she said, and you look like Ron Howard. You have to go. You have to audition. And so I went and got the part of Winthrop in The Music Man, and haven't looked back since.
And so, well, as long as we're on the subject, where do you view your professional trajectory? I mean, where do you want to go with this in 5, 10 years? You want to be
Yeah,
on?
so yeah, so I started performing, like I said, so I started performing, but I always wanted to direct. I
Yeah,
always wanted to be behind the camera or behind the table, and I thought that I'd have to suffer through performing for a long time, and then I found the program at Webster, which is a directing program for undergrads, which is relatively rare. Certainly at the time was rare. I think
yeah.
it's still pretty rare, but they accept three majors a year, three students a year to the program.
Wow,
Which is a
that's
part of the
rare.
larger school, obviously, but three for the degree program. And I was one of the three accepted, and so I was like, oh, great, I can just go right to directing. I can just be a young director. So I freelance directed. Throughout school, I got a job at the Muni in St. Louis, which is America's oldest and largest outdoor musical theater. The stage is about half the size of a football field in the
Really?
middle of Forest Park in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Seats 11,000 people. And funnily enough, it was there that I met Donalyn Hilton, who is now the artistic director here at Goodspeed. And I then did a couple shows here as an associate director while I was in my freelancing days. And then right before the world shut down, she wanted an associate and called me and asked if I would be interested in joining the team. And so I moved out here 6 months before the world shut down,
Well,
and have been here ever since. And so the trajectory, to answer your question, is I'm a
because it's
director.
my business to know. I need to know.
Well, so I'm a director by trade. That that's where my training is. That's
I
where
was
my
gonna say
passions
this
are.
is
And I'm actually
the gig at Goodspeed is sort of like your day job,
it's
right?
a day job, and it involves a lot of producing. So, which is also like I've worked in theater forever. So the producing element, my job at the Muni initially was working for the executive producer, and artistic director there, and the casting director and associate producer. And then that was around the time of Fun Home on Broadway. He was a lead producer of Fun Home on Broadway, so I helped work on the Tony campaign. So when I moved to New York, my day job was producing in the office at Fox, not to do with Fox News, and different Fox. And so I have a lot of producing skills just by like the things that and self-producing work and all that kind of stuff. So the day job is producing, and the artistic associate artistic director is the day-to-day operations of the theater,
Yeah.
and making sure the shows get to stage smoothly on time, hopefully under budget, and the marketing, the casting, all of the things that it take to actually get the show to rehearsal. And then actually, as a part of the overall artistic vision of Goodspeed and whatnot, I'm actually directing next season, which was just announced today. So I'm directing Crazy for You next season.
Okay.
So I will be directing and producing, which is a lot of work, but it's good. So the
Good.
overall trajectory is directing. And I have producing skills, but being an artistic director somewhere, or staying in the admin role, and the administration producing of a regional theater with the opportunities to direct at that theater, which is,
Right.
for anyone who follows regional theater, is fairly standard for regionals, that there are people, are either artistic director or an associate on staff who directs, or both. It's new for Goodspeed, but it's not necessarily new for regional theaters like Hartford Stage and TheaterWorks and different
Right.
places, that Long Wharf, different places around Yale. I could keep naming things, but it's fairly standard. So I'm just joining those ranks now
Well,
officially as a
it's
director at Goodspeed.
it's fascinating. Do you ever get the itch to act? You're not
Um,
know,
People
you know.
ask me that. I don't really. There are certain things that like I'm delusional enough that like if someone came up to me and said, "Hey, like there are a couple roles that I'd be like, yeah, I would do that for fun." But no, not really. There's enough public speaking and enough like engagement
Yeah.
with donor. It sounds almost bad to say it this way, but there's enough engagement with donors where you kind of have to put on a certain character. There's a front facing element to the job that is a bit of a performance,
Sure.
um, that goes with that. I'm like, yeah, that's enough. I can do
Yeah.
that's plenty. It's plenty
As a
to
communications
entertain,
guy, I get
tell
that.
some joke. Yeah, exactly. Tell some jokes and make some people smile, and then
Yeah.
I don't need to do 8 shows a week. That's talk about sustainability. Oof, I don't know about that. I don't know
Yeah.
if I could sustain that,
It's
but
just too much
yeah.
like work. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh, well, and I guess we should talk about the good speed at some point. This has
Yeah,
been
yeah,
fascinating,
yeah.
but we should probably. Let me ask. It's a very simple question about the name of the place because this has been driving me crazy.
Yep.
So you got, is it the Goodspeed Opera House? Is it Goodspeed? The Goodspeed? Is it Goodspeed Musicals? I mean, what is it? Tell me
This
because it's
is
kind of driving me
a
crazy.
wonderful question. That if I here we use a lot of terms interchangeably. The company is Goodspeed Musicals.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
building is the Goodspeed Opera House.
Okay.
That is the building. So we refer to the building as the Goodspeed. We refer to the building as the Opera House, or just GOH, or Goodspeed Opera House. But like Goodspeed Musicals is the company that operates inside of the Opera House.
So
So,
if
but
I
it's a
had a
very good
show,
question.
I have a show and I'm putting out I'm putting out my promos for the show. I'm saying, Jim Hunt the musical is going to be at the Goodspeed Opera House. I wouldn't say I'm going to be at Goodspeed Musicals, right?
Right, that's
Okay.
right. Because technically, we as Goodspeed Musicals also produce at the Terrace, which is our theater in Chester, and we do various other things. So technically speaking, the venue is the Opera House. The company is Goodspeed Musicals, but there was also a time where we referred to ourselves pretty much exclusively as Goodspeed Opera House. So the building is so famous and so beautiful and has been, a jewel of the Connecticut River since 1873. So,
Yeah.
it is its own, as you've mentioned, attraction and thing. So it's its own brand on a certain level. So it's hard to get people fully on board with that, especially because there is such a history and tradition of Goodspeed generally. So yeah.
Yeah. Was it always the Goodspeed Opera House, even back in the day, back in whatever his name who built the place? Can't remember his name.
Yeah, so William
Goodspeed,
H.
something that
Yeah.
built the place. Did he build it? Did he call it the Goodspeed Opera House, or was it
The
something else?
so not exclusive. The building in total was a multi-purpose building
Yeah.
for the town of East Haddam, and then the Opera House was the top floor where the
Okay.
performance venue was, the hall. But again, even like the mix of I don't even have my I have a little we for our 50th anniversary did a book that has like the history of a lot of things that I use as a cheat sheet a lot of times, but I was gonna pull it up and like start flipping through it. But he built the hall upstairs was the opera house. And then on the first floor of the building was some local merchants and different offices and things. And then as you went up the stairs and whatever, then there was the multi-purpose.
There was a
um,
saloon in there at one time, and then there was, but not a
it's,
brothel.
it's
No
oh, so
brothels.
over the course of years, it has had a number of different things.
Yeah.
So because he built it. Let me give you a clear version of that.
William Goodspeed is that was the guy,
Yeah.
and
William
then
H. Goodspeed built the whole thing basically because he had a competition with another local like music aficionado teacher
oh,
person.
really? Okay.
And that's why he built the whole building was for the opera house. But he was like, well, we can have multiple purposes and be a multi-use building. So, but he only got to enjoy the building for like 7 or 8 years before he died, not very
Oh,
long. And then they managed to keep it somewhat going with some public performances, but it closed after its last public performance for a very long time was a performance of Uncle Tom's Cabin, and then the building continued to function on the first floor as the various offices. I'm blanking on the various trades that were in there, but there were a number of offices that you can still kind of see the remnants of, like our gift shop,
yeah,
and the artistic director's office, and some of the glass windows for those who have been to the building
yeah.
are still the facades of when they were different little shops,
I mean, it was like
essentially.
it was a steamboat terminal or something. I mean, lots of different weird stuff along the way.
Yeah, so he had a steamboat line, so it was meant to be a stop on the steamboat line, and then so as the building fell into disrepair and the opera house upstairs became basically unusable because of some fire code things, then the building was eventually abandoned. The Department of Transportation bought it and turned it into a garage. It
Really?
was a general
Okay.
store, and then it was just abandoned for a long period of time. And to make the decades long story short, and then in the 60s, it was marked for demolition, or in the late 50s was marked for demolition. And some local women of East Haddam said, no, no, we should restore it and make it into an actual theater again and do
Thank
something with
God for
it.
local women who
Thank
take
God for thank God for
the.
local women, and organized the community, raised money, raised funds, and got a lot of people to donate their time and services, and restored the building to reopen in 1963 with a performance of "Oh Lady Lady," that musical smash hit by Jerome Kern. It's not a
Okay.
smash hit.
I
It's No one does it anymore. But so
I'll
that's kind
believe
of
you, but
how.
yeah.
And the original concept for doing performances was a mix of a lot of things because no one quite could decide what the community wanted to see. So there was a chamber music concert, there was an opera, there was an operetta, there was musical comedy. They did some short reel film nights, like lots of
Oh,
different sorts of things. But musical comedy, as it was referred to then, sort of took hold as the thing that seemed to be the most popular. And that essentially is how we got to be Goodspeed, over then the course of time, Goodspeed Musicals.
Well, that was another the other question I didn't know if I should ask ahead of the one before was that why musicals? Why and was it always musicals? And the fact that I mean, there's no you could do drama, you could do lots of different stuff, or pure entertainment, concerts and the like. But it really kind of fed right into the musical genre almost right away. You know,
Yeah, it was really a like let's try it and see what people respond to, and that is what people most responded to. So in that way, we have always been, while an artistic organization, a community service organization. Like we do attempt to serve our audience and what they want to see on some level.
sure.
That is a part of our DNA.
Do you see a connection? I was kind of joking about the local ladies. All right, thank God for them. But that kind of historical restoration is pretty important
Oh yeah.
to preserving some of our not just the building, that's well and good, but also the cultural heritage of who we are, where we came from. That's still pretty important. I guess what I'm at is there a question in there somewhere? I wonder how important the Goodspeed is to the local community and how it identifies itself in that way by this building, by the. You think so? You think it does? I
Oh
assume.
yeah. I mean, we consider, I mean, it's easy for us to say that we matter to the community. But yeah, we are a huge, I mean, we're a huge, for better or for worse. I think East Haddam is not the biggest town,
No,
in
but
Connecticut.
yeah.
But we are a huge, so for better or for worse, we are a huge driver of people to East Haddam, which I think there are a lot of feelings about. There are some people who would like for East Haddam to be this, a very quiet, not derogatory, sleepy town. That is their quiet way away from their day life in Hartford or Middletown or New London, wherever that may be. And but we are a destination for most people. So between us and the Gelston House, which is next door, which is a building we own but we do not operate. Yeah, we're very much a part of. I mean, we're the downtown. We are the downtown
Right. You are the downtown of
of
East
East
Haddam.
Haddam. And right now too, with the other restaurant, which used to be La Vida, but is going to be a new place, is not open yet. So we really are the only kind of thing in the downtown of Connecticut at the moment. So we are a very big part of the East Haddam community. We're one of the top 10 taxpayers in the even
Well,
though we're a
yeah.
nonprofit, we're still a huge taxpayer for the town. And we, have a bunch of buildings throughout the entire, we have a real campus. It takes a lot to put on a musical between housing the actors, the technicians, the designers, the creative team members, the shops that build, I mean, it takes a literal village. So we have quite a bit of buildings and property to make all that happen. So we're spread out throughout East Haddam, all the way up the road to the industrial park, which is where my office is,
Oh,
and where our
really?
shops
Okay.
are. So we're quite spread out across East Haddam. So I think we're pretty key to the cultural fabric of East Haddam, and certainly the River Valley generally.
Yeah, I was going to say your influence goes a lot farther afield than East Haddam. I mean, in terms
Yeah.
of regional theater and cultural happenings in that part of Connecticut, you guys carry a lot of weight. There's a center of gravity there,
Yeah,
really.
we do. So, and like with the other flag, so we are a part of an organization, the Connecticut flagship producing theaters, which is us. I always forget one, but it's us, Hartford Stage, Long Wharf, Westport County Playhouse, the O'Neill, Yale
Yeah.
Repertory Theater, and I've forgotten one. I always forget one.
We'll hear from
Um,
them.
we'll hear from them. They'll write me. But as a part of that group, we when we're like meeting up to do various things, we're like kind of dead in the middle of everybody, but we're still like 45 minutes at least from everyone else, which is not always the case between the New Haven theaters
Right.
and whatnot. So So yeah, we are kind of even from the O'Neill, which is up in New London. By the every time I go to the O'Neill for a performance, I'm like, oh, it really is like actually not that close. I think of them as our like next door neighbors, and they're actually like 45 minutes away. But yeah. So anyway, it's just it is we are a pretty large institution, and we have some other theaters around the Iverton Playhouse, the Kate down in Old Saybrook. We are not without other
Sure.
theatrical
Yeah.
venues. But in terms of our like running season and capacity and whatnot, we do have and having two theaters. We have two different theaters that we produce in, which is atypical for a lot of the other Connecticut theaters. So even that just makes us, I think, a pretty large player. And then you have the larger regional theater landscape in general, and as a place that has produced exclusively musicals for over 60 years, we are unique even on that front with the regional theater movement. We don't, like you said, we don't do plays. We don't do other things. We just do musicals. So within LORT, which is the League of Regional Theaters, which is a group that we're a part of, that we have contracts and things for unions and all that stuff there, we are unique because of our size. Both being we're large in profile, but small in footprint in terms of the actual physical space of
That
the
is
operas.
really very interesting to know because you go to East Haddam and you see the Goodspeed and you think, well, that's it.
Yeah,
This building, because you don't you don't boast. You're not out there saying, you've now entered the Goodspeed campus and go here.
right, exactly.
There's not a whole lot. There's the building. And I read about that in terms of the organization itself, you've got a whole lot of stuff going on. Like there's the Max Showalter Center
Yeah,
for
yeah,
education. That's a
yes,
big deal. The arts education collaboration and your second stage in Chester.
yeah.
Um, what do you do with, say, what does the Max Showalter do? What does that do for the organization? What does that do
So
with?
the Max Showalter is the library. It's the largest collection outside of Lincoln Center of theater related items.
Oh, cool.
It is currently not open to the public. It's been closed since COVID. Although I get maybe we do have some
Really?
hours occasionally, so don't hold me on that. Um, but we have tons of scripts of musicals, memorabilia, scores, DVDs, CDs, records, books, playbills. We have the entire NBC radio archives of
Wow.
music, all the orchestrations from shows that have been at Goodspeed, some orchestrations of shows that are in New York, periodicals, our show archives, tons of things that exist in the library that are open by appointment, open to scholars, researchers, historians, and people who have interest that in musical theater generally. It is kind of a musical theater nerd paradise. You walk into
Yeah.
the library, which is mid campus is right across from where we rehearse and by our costume shop. And you can just the first time I ever walked in there, I was like, I could spend all day here and just be lost. Like you just any
Yeah.
almost anything you could imagine is somewhere in the stacks of the library.
Well, I'm
Um,
surprised the Smithsonian hasn't, I don't know, come and called upon
hit us
you.
up or something. But it's a very neat thing because musical theater, while was a center part, a centerpiece of American culture, of mainstream pop culture in the 40s, 50s, and even before then, but 40s, 50s, 60s, and has kind of dwindled in the years since. I think it's more than fair to say it's more of a niche interest now, even though. I can make a case that it's not as niche an interest. Generally, like, every high school does a musical, and even when other programs are
Right.
being cut,
Right.
everyone does everything they can to save the school musical. And musical theater is a distinctly American art form. It is something that we came up with and invented ultimately when you talk about the integrated musical, that is an American invention. Oklahoma being the prime example of that,
Mhm.
actually was the first fully integrated musical where every song, every dance, everything was about propelling the story forward. Now it's just what we call a musical. At the time it was revolutionary. Musicals and musical comedies were much more just entertainments that were like, oh, throw in this popular song here, a very threadbare story. The song didn't necessarily do anything to forward the plot or tell you
Yeah.
anything about a character. It just was like, oh, this is a popular song that we want either on the radio or is popular from the radio or whatever. Very similar to what we think of jukebox musicals like now. That was the bulk of what was on Broadway, and then Oklahoma, other things too, but largely changed that game. So Now we just think of it as a musical, but at the time,
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's more. This is not my bailiwick, so forgive me if I use the wrong
yes,
terminology, but strikes me as more operatic, where you have an actual book. There's a story,
yes,
and the performances go to support that story, and a lot more than, yeah, like you said, it's not a simple review. It's not just people up there
right.
kicking and hitting high notes. It actually serves a storyline.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Yeah. Let's take a break a second. We'll come right back and we'll continue on because this is great.
Great.
We'll be right back. We'll return to our program in just a moment. You've been listening to The Impact, a Sustainable CT podcast. Did I happen to mention that we'll be having our 2025 award celebration at the Goodspeed Opera House in East Haddam on Tuesday, October 28th? Heck yeah, 6 Main Street in beautiful East Haddam on Tuesday, October 28th from 4 to 7 p.m. One singular sensation. Oh, I can't help myself. This is going to be quite the show. Join us in making the big kicks and hitting the high notes, won't you? We'll be honoring all of our 2025 certified towns and a brand new cohort of climate leaders. And we have a big surprise in store too. And I would tell you what it is, but then it wouldn't be a surprise now, would it? You'll just have to come and find out. We'll have music and light fair, and all of your sustainable CT friends will be there. So register now because you do not want to miss this. See you on October 28th. If you haven't received your engraved invitation yet, I do apologize, but you can go to where else? sustainablect.org to register for this stellar event. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring your coworkers. But please do join us at the Goodspeed Opera House in East Haddam on October 28th. We will save you a seat. Our 2025 award celebration is generously sponsored by our friends at Eversource, building a sustainable future. That's Eversource. And by Reworld, sustainable waste solutions without compromise. Reworld, and by Clean Transportation Communities of Southern Connecticut. By Invest Asset Management. By Casella Waste Management. By Power Options. By Titan Energy. And by Energia. Yes, thank you, sponsors. And it's not too late to become a supporting sponsor of this event. Come on, join us in working for a better Connecticut, won't you? Contact Jessica LeClaire at 860-259-4767 to discuss options and details. She's waiting by the phone. That's 860-259-4767. All right, let's get back to the program. Welcome back. We are talking to Michael Fling. He is I'm going to get this wrong, Associate Art Director?
Associate Artistic Director.
Artistic Director at Goodspeed Musicals in East Haddam. And we are going to be there on October 28th. So I thought it'd be nice to have him in to talk about the place and just get its history and its flavor and its feeling. There's a lot of energy there. I really like that place because even though I like old things. There you go. And so that's an attraction for me. I like that space when it's restored. It's a beautiful space, but it also, even that it's an old space, has a lot of energy to it. It just feels like you can feel it when you walk in there. I don't know what that is, whether that's a theater thing.
I think it's a little bit of a theater thing. I think it's also like you're kind of the energy one walking into the front doors of the Opera House. It just is a unique,
Yeah,
special building. It just is.
get that staircase to get the whole
The
thing going.
staircase, the original creation of the building, like the original things that exist, the restoration in the 60s, which is its own, we're registered with with the State Historic Preservation Office. But we're double historic. We're historic for the building being built in 1873 and what it was originally. And we're historic for the restoration in the 60s because the people who did the restoration were important and amazing in their own way. So we're like double historic, and there's something about that energy. And also like the lobby space as it is currently is not super big. The
Right.
footprint of the overall building, there are many levels to it, but the actual
It's intimate. Yes.
It is intimate. And so like there are times like if you show up at the right time, you're not necessarily on top of people in the lobby, but it's just like you're navigating we use every inch of space everywhere.
Yeah.
So there is something about that kind of energy of all the people and being that close to a bunch of other people, that is exciting. And even when you're in the opera house, which seats, almost 400 people, but it doesn't feel like it feels very intimate, which is one of the interesting things that we're able to do with these large scale musicals is bring them into a more intimate environment. And even though we do big spectacles in a tiny, tiny space, our numbers on the stage, which dancers use to space out, and it's a whole spacing thing. Typically on Broadway, numbers will go out to their numbers like each side of the stage. They go like start at 0, and then you go 2 feet out, and there's a 2 on either side, and 4 feet out, and all this stuff. Typically, Broadway stages will go out to about like 18 or 20 on the numbers, usually, maybe a little bit less. Our
Okay.
numbers go out to 12.
Wow. Okay.
We lose quite a bit. We're pretty tiny, and we don't have a fly space. We can't fly things in and out, because we are the top part of the building. So there's not,
You-
we don't
You're not going
fly
to be staging
ceilings.
Peter Pan anytime soon.
Although we have done Peter Pan, we have done it
Okay.
actually,
All right.
but it's just it's a different, thing because we can't,
Right.
Peter Pan can't go all
You
the
can't
way.
go
It's
flying
just a
around
different
the
thing.
building.
And we did a musical based on Superman back in the 90s. We
Wow.
flew Superman over the audience. So like we can fly people. It's just as a different thing. So, but that's all to say, there is a different because of its historic status and its intimacy and the large musicals in such an intimate space. There is something bursting with energy. Musicals are kind of energy dependent anyway, just that it's the nature of the music and the performances and the dancing are very energetic most of the time anyway. So when you're so close that you can feel that with, 400 other people watching and 20 plus people on stage, often tap dancing,
Yeah.
8 pieces in the orchestra. There is a
There's
lot
a
of
lot
energy in the
going on.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the place is really visually deceptive. When we went there, we went into the theater and we go, all right, this can't hold more than 200 people. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, just the way it looked, that's 400 plus seats in there. And I actually counted them because I didn't believe it. It is amazing the size of that theater. It just it doesn't have that big empty expanse or anything. It's nice and intimate in there. It really is.
It really is. Yeah.
And very, very cool. Now, a hell of a lot has changed since 1963 when I was a handsome young man of four. I know you don't go back that long, obviously, you're a young guy, but give me some idea. You're kind of a theatrical historian of sorts. You have this knowledge base. How has it changed, do you think, over the course of that's a long time?
It's a
And
long time.
I mean,
Um,
the technical things obviously must have changed. Sound, how you handle sound, I don't know. But theater
yeah.
is live, so does that much of it really change? Is that?
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how many things are like, yes, the answer to all of that is yes. Technology has changed. We use microphones now. The literal, like, actual way that the lights are powered in the opera house has changed. We have a number of LED instruments now that, all those sorts of things
Right.
and
It's not under the hot
technological.
spot. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Those things that develop over the course of years. And, now it's funny when we go into tech for a show and because we're so rural, we've finally fixed this actually, but we had Wi-Fi connectivity issues for so long. And like there were a couple times where like we'd get into tech for a show and like our Wi-Fi would be down and suddenly everyone would be like, well, we can't do the show. And it's like, well, actually, we used to do these things all the time without Wi-Fi. So I think we can find a way to make it work. But so yeah, the technology has changed. The technology's adapted. We have some automation on the stage now that did not exist in the same way 60 years ago. And certainly the even just like the technologies and the style of design, but like how we paint drops has changed. We do have, but then there are also things that haven't changed because of the limitations of the space. Instead of like I was talking about the no fly system, a lot of times when you see a show and you see a backdrop come in, it hangs above the stage in a complete, as its complete thing, and then it just flies down into place. We actually have a roll drop system because we don't have that ability to do that. So if you think back to the movie of The Sound of Music, and they do the puppet show,
Sure.
and they pull that little thing, and the drop comes like rolling down, it like unfurls like that. Doesn't quite work that exact same way. But that is closer to how we do backdrops at Goodspeed, which
Okay.
is that is a super old school theatrical technique that changed and evolved over the years that we have not changed with, and it's actually something I learned about in my freshman year at college. We That was the first time, I think, the first time I had, or at least learned about Goodspeed. I'm sure on Google in some way, shape, or form I had actually read about Goodspeed, but my professor was like, there's a place in Connecticut called Goodspeed, where they still use roll drops. And I was like, and I remember that to this day, which is funny. And now I work here. But so there are things like that that have not changed from the 60s. The other big change is programming. It's the shows that we do. So
I
once
was going to
upon a
ask about that next, but go
yeah,
for
no.
it.
So that's really the big shift. So like I
Yeah.
alluded to, we first started our particular niche of producing and of the shows that we produced was we would often do forgotten musicals that nobody else did.
Yeah.
That were maybe your parents had the cast recording or you had the cast recording growing up, but people don't produce it for any reason. Maybe it wasn't a big hit, or it's just too difficult to produce for any number of reasons. It doesn't have the title recognition that sells tickets, whatever that might be. And that was kind of our unique thing that we did, as well as producing some new musicals, which we famously produced the world premiere of Annie almost 50 years ago,
In a
and
while. Yeah.
Man of La
I,
Mancha,
yeah.
Shandala, a
Uh,
number of things. That was kind of our unique lane of sorts. And then as the years move on, the forgotten musicals of the past, that window shifts. Just because things change, times
sure.
change. So what was a 50-year-old, Oh Lady Lady was a 50-year-old musical that hadn't really been produced, or maybe not quite 50 years old, but an older musical that hadn't been produced nearly as much in 1963. Well, now that show is, 90 plus years old. And
Yeah.
nobody really knows Oh Lady Lady. And now, so the 50-year-old musical now is something like Annie, or we're doing Jesus Christ Superstar next year, which is a 55-year-old musical. And yes,
Wow. Do I feel
people,
old?
and people know it, but they have not everybody knows it. Or like we're doing Chorus Line right now, and there are a bunch of, Chorus Line is one of the most famous musicals of all time. It's an I call it an A-list classic. It's one of the ones that, like, if you asked a normal person on the street, like, hey, name a Broadway musical, they might say, oh, Chorus Line. Like, they've heard of it probably. And there's a certain generation that, like, oh, that was the show that they loved and worshiped the album and all the stuff. But there's a whole generation who have never seen a professional production of Chorus Line. So we still do produce the classics. It just has what is a classic and what is often produced changes. There are newer shows that come out that become popular or become the thing that theaters produce. And then over the course of years, they start at a certain level of popularity and then they dwindle because people unfortunately die
Yeah,
and
but boy, you make a
things
great point
change.
because, and a lot of things make me feel old these days. But the fact is, I remember like it was yesterday that Jesus Christ Superstar and Hair and what was a couple other ones
Yeah,
were just cutting edge theater. That was like
yeah,
that was breaking ground on all sorts of different, the book and the
yeah.
different, the music, the rock and roll in the show, the blah, blah, blah. These things were like cutting edge. And that was, and again, wasn't that just yesterday? It wasn't,
It
it's
was, yeah,
50 years
yeah,
ago. 50 years ago. Holy mackerel.
yeah.
Yeah, we have that album. I've got,
Yeah. So it's
we've
just
got
it
it.
just that window of the Overton window, for the overly political term, which your audience is probably familiar with if you're listening to
Yeah,
Sustainable
yeah,
CT. You probably know what an Overton window is. But that Overton window has just shifted.
yeah.
And that's hard for a lot of it's hard for a lot of audience who've been with us for so long to, because they would love for us to continue to only do the old lady ladies and those
Yeah.
shows. And those sometimes those shows are great and they're wonderful and they're entertaining. And we're doing a show next year called Crazy for You, which is a revision of one of those old shows that it was on Broadway in the 90s. It's a Gershwin tap dance spectacular, and it's right at the core of what historically Goodspeed has done. It is like absolutely that feeling of show. We're going to put on a show in a barn type show within a show is classic to what we would do. And so we still do things like that. It's just a different version of it that is a little newer and has newer arrangements and whatnot. So, but now, like Jesus Christ Superstar, or this year, Chorus Line is celebrating its 50th anniversary. A couple years ago, we did or we did Cabaret. Cabaret is
Yeah.
60-year-old
Wow.
musical, and so if Goodspeed can't produce it, and it's a little darker than a lot of things that we used to do, but the art form has progressed and gotten a little darker. And
Yeah.
there was I remember around the time of Cabaret, there was a lot of like, ooh, that's really dark for us. I don't know. And I was like, it's a 60-year-old musical. And if you're a subscriber at Goodspeed or a Goodspeed audience member, you absolutely have seen the movie of Cabaret and you know what it is. Like it's okay. It's got great music
Yeah.
and it's one of the best musicals ever written. I think we should absolutely be okay to produce it.
How hard is it to get new musicals off I mean, are you in the market for
Oh,
new stuff?
always. Yeah. So we have a robust, so I run all of our new works programs. So for as much as it's funny, depending on how you interact with Goodspeed, that is like, people are like, oh, Goodspeed, you do amazing revivals of classic musicals. And then for people who are very much in the new work sphere, people are like,
Yeah,
oh, Goodspeed, home of new work, a place where someone will
there
actually
you go.
produce a new musical. But it just depends on how you interact with us. So
Sure.
I run our entire new works pipeline. So we commission shows where we'll approach writers that we have relationships with and say, hey, we think that this should be a musical, or hey, we really like what you do and what you write. What are you interested in writing? That's a thing that we do, all the way from idea to we have a writer's residency program that we run during our off season when the rest of our housing is not in use with actors and designers and technicians and all that. We turn the housing over to writers and we give
God
writing
bless you.
teams a house. Well, we put a piano in each house and a printer and
There
turn the
you go.
house over to a writing team and they each have their own room. And it's like, hey, and in the common room you work and we'll
Wow.
give you post-its and paper and we have some gathering sessions in the evening where they can share their work with each other. But it's a magical like 2 weeks in the winter where there's really not much to do. The town is closed. Oftentimes there's snow on the ground and it's amazing what writers can accomplish when you give them time and
Yeah.
space and some support. So we do that, and then we have a festival of new musicals where we produce music stand readings. It's a developmental process where we produce music stand readings of new musicals and showcase it to the audience, as well as cabaret, or as well as two cabaret residencies for other writers. And then we have the Terrace in Connecticut, which is pretty much exclusively dedicated to putting shows on their feet for the first time
Good.
in
Okay.
workshop productions. So and then we do basically a new show a year at the Opera House. So this next year we're doing the Snow Goose, which is a commission of ours. It's actually our first official commission of the Good Works program to reach the main stage. So we're really excited about that. But yeah, we often joke that we kiss a lot of frogs. I read and interact with somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 plus new musicals a year, at least.
You'll be
Um,
paid in heaven. That's great. No,
so
that's
yeah,
great.
we kiss a lot of frogs
Yeah.
to find the ones that resonate, that really that move us, and we think will move the audience, and
Yeah.
are good musicals, and hopefully
What
have
do
a
you what,
future.
what are you looking forward to in the future? I know that you talk about the winter, things are pretty dead, but there is the whole holiday showcase. I mean, you guys do some pretty big deals for Christmas or the holidays, right? I
Yeah,
think.
we're doing White Christmas. So we're doing Irving Berlin's White Christmas
Yeah,
at the Opera
that's a
House
lot of
this
fun.
year, which is a lot of fun. And there's nothing quite like Goodspeed at Christmas. It just that you walk into the building because of the white facade of the building, and then the
Yeah,
big red staircase, and then when it's all and the gold trim, and then when it has wreaths around it, it just feels like a Christmas card.
yeah. I'm going
So
this year. I'm going.
oh, good.
I'm bringing my family. We always go to look for a new production of A Christmas Carol, and we've been to some very bizarre productions of A Christmas Carol. It's just a family
Uh-huh.
tradition we do every year. but I'm going to the Goodspeed. We're going to the Goodspeed this year because you're
Love
right.
it.
I can't imagine being a Scrooge, forgive the pun, at
Yeah.
that location
Yeah.
during quick Christmas. It's just like, whoa, this is really going to be nice. So I'm
It's very warm and cozy and
going.
like everything that you want for a family Christmas outing.
Sure, sure. I don't want to let you go before I ask you, you have a favorite show?
That I've done or just
Well,
favorite show generally?
that you've done that you really doesn't have to be
I
one you've
did
done.
so my favorite show I've directed or favorite production I've directed. I directed a production of My Fair Lady in Hartford last spring at the Hart School, actually. That was an intimate black box production of My Fair Lady, which everyone thought which I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to do that show that way. It's based on George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion. It's a great play. I hate when very pretentiously people will call musicals plays. Be like, oh, it's really a play with music. And I'm like, no,
Yeah,
it's a
I
musical.
guess.
It's a musical. But My Fair Lady is one of those musicals that like actually it's fair to call there are extended sections without music because it's largely Pygmalion. And I always thought like it's such a good text and people think about the big costumes and the big orchestra and all the things that the pomp and circumstance of My Fair Lady. And I was like, I think it's kind of lost the plot a little bit. Like people perception of it is very different from what it actually is. And I think in a stripped down, more intimate, without all that pomp and circumstance, without a big orchestra, and just like really focusing on the story and the characters and the dialogue, I think people will hear it in a new way. And so we did that. And I was super, super proud of it.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite thing I think that's my favorite thing that I've ever directed. My favorite musical generally, though, I love Rodgers and Hammerstein's Carousel,
Oh, really?
which
Oh,
is a
that's an
dark.
interesting choice.
A lot of
Okay.
people have very strong feelings about Carousel. Some people have strong feelings about My Fair Lady, but a lot of people have strong feelings about Carousel. I think it is a broadly misunderstood musical that has a gorgeous score,
Yeah.
and is really just a beautiful, beautiful story about broken humans and how broken humans find each other and hurt each other and love and all and life and how messy and complex it is. And so that's my favorite. I think that's what I call my favorite musical. But I also am a Sound of Music, like Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, like everything. Those are my favorite movies. So between those four, you
Yeah,
pretty much fit me.
and if I give you long enough, you'll come up with 10 more. I bet you too.
Yeah, I'm sure I could. I'm
Because
sure I could.
all of it's good. All of it's
Yeah.
good. And so what's coming up next? Is the chorus line, are they there now?
Chorus line's running now.
And
Yeah.
then what's
And
next after that?
if you're lucky enough to snag a ticket, do snag it because it's a great production. We still have tickets left, not a ton of them. It's not sold out, but it's a great production and really pretty amazing. So then White Christmas is next
Oh,
this year,
really?
and
Okay.
then
I better get my tickets.
yeah, get your tickets, get your tickets. And then next year we open the season with Jesus Christ. We just announced this today, so it's just public today. So we're doing Jesus Christ Superstar in the spring. We'll do
Wow.
Crazy for You in the summer, which is the Gershwin tap dance spectacular that I'm directing that I told you about. Then the Snow Goose, which is our commission, is in the fall. And a beautiful, beautiful story and show that we have a lot of pride in. We're really proud of it and hope that it takes
Wow.
off and goes to Broadway and all of the things. And then a holiday production of to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Annie. So that's what's coming up.
Well, I want to ask a quick question because maybe it's dumb. Maybe it's a dumb question. But where do you find that talent? I mean, a chorus line's a good example. That requires some real hoofers. And where do you find them? They come from everywhere? Where?
All over. So we do season auditions. We do some season auditions at the beginning of the our casting process in Connecticut. We have a local audition that will be like in November, I think, this
Yeah.
year. And then but we cast predominantly out of New York. So
Okay.
we'll go into New York for depending on the show, it depends on the amount of time, but anywhere from a week, week and a half, 2 weeks casting each production, probably about.
Really? You do that in New York? Okay.
You do it in New
I'm
York.
learning here. I'm
And
learning.
a lot of videotapes now, like we still do a lot of in-person auditions. A lot of theaters have moved to like exclusively videotape auditions.
Yeah.
But you just don't get the same. You can tell some things and like we'd still cast by videotape sometimes, but it's always better to be in the room with someone and actually like feel their energy and get what that is. So, but
Sure.
we cast mainly out of New York, but we've cast people from Chicago, we've had people from Hawaii, we've had people from overseas, like we anywhere and everywhere.
Well, and the musical is fascinating. You got to be able to act.
Yes.
You got
Yes.
to be able to sing. You probably have to be able to dance, and you got to be able to act too. And you got to
You
have it all going. And
you gotta have it
not
all.
everybody does.
And we can't really, because of our size and we don't have as big of casts, if you're at another venue that has more space, if you're in the ensemble, maybe you can get away with not being the best singer because you're an amazing dancer and
Right.
you can hide the voice and or you can hide, or if you're not a good dancer but you're a good singer, we can hide you somewhere. You can't really hide on the Goodspeed stage. There's just not really space to. So
Right.
everyone pretty much that we hire has to be a triple threat, as we say.
Well,
So.
geez, Mike, we are out of time, and I because it just went zoom, and because I've had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for this.
This was great. Thank you for having us. And we're
I
excited to
could
host you
yak
all
with
at the
you
end of the
for
month.
I could yak for you with you for a while. We're going to be there on the 28th, so I hope you're around. If you are, that's great. Otherwise, I'm
Yeah,
sure I'll run into you at some point because I'm going to be there for for White Christmas. Anyway,
absolutely.
thank you so much for doing this. Really do
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you, Jim.
We hope you've enjoyed today's edition of The Impact, a Sustainable CT podcast. As always, this program is recorded, produced, and copyrighted, by Sustainable CT. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsor, the Connecticut Green Bank. Thanks to our guest, Michael Fling, for sharing his vast knowledge of the Goodspeed with us today. And thanks to everyone for taking local actions that have a statewide impact.